Welcome to the Good Leadership Breakfast. This is our 110th meeting. Yeah. This is the first of a two-part fall series around building cultures of healthy accountability. The Good Leadership Breakfast is a dynamic force of good leaders who are improving the way organizations perform because they know goodness pays. The fall theme, as I said, building a culture of healthy accountability. Does that resonate with anyone? Oh, okay, good. My name is Julie McDonough. I'm your co-host this morning. I'm the Minnesota Market President for Old National Bank, and we're excited to be the title sponsor here as well. I came to my first Good Leadership Breakfast in 2014, and I immediately knew that this was a movement that I wanted to be a part of. I pretty quickly became friends with Paul, and in the years since, I've either been a breakfast attendee, I've been up here on stage co-hosting, and most importantly, I've actually been a part of getting to participate in this work with my team at Old National, and we'll hear a little bit about that in a minute. But with that being said, we'd love to bring a message from Old National next.
Right now at Old National, we've got this incredible checking offer.
Huh.
Hey.
Hi. What?
He's here for the checking.
I love checking.
Okay. You know what? For a bonus that big, fine. Bring on the checking!
Oh, it's not that type of checking. You just download the app.
Yeah, no, I'm stretching. Where do I sign?
Earn up to a $450 bonus when you open a checking account at Old National, official bank of the Big Ten.
Now I get to introduce my co-host this morning, who is the creator of the Good Leadership Breakfast. He's an informed optimist, a contrarian who pushes back against the bad news bias in the media, and a thought leader on organizational effectiveness. Please welcome Paul Batz, President and CEO of Good Leadership.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. So fun. So fun. I mean, this is just absolutely amazing. We're so grateful. Probably the most important thing to do is to say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't think when we started this 15 years ago, we would imagine that we would have kept momentum for that long to get to 110 breakfasts. And I was doing the math, and at the end of this year, we will go over 35,000 guests. And yeah, pretty soon, Julie's going to lead us through the bucket of goodwill, which is our favorite ritual. And we can see $500,000 in sight for the bucket of goodwill. Just stunning, stunning things. We can't do it without you. We're so grateful. It's also a crescendo happening here at the Good Leadership Breakfast, because a year ago we started this research project around healthy accountability. That's why the theme of the breakfast is what it is. We put together a startup team that met in February, a steering team, of 16 of our partners and clients, people who were really curious as to how can we learn, what are the secrets to helping create a culture of healthy accountability in today's workplace. And when I say today's workplace, what I mean is that the flexibility and collaboration movement is here to stay. And also, we believe this is probably the best time in history to ever be an employee. HR has been able to effectively influence CEOs to really invest in wellness. All of that is good. And yet, we hear over and over again from our clients, we're worried about the state of accountability. It's not going up. Many people believe it's going down. So what do we need to do to figure out as managers, as leaders, to do to our culture to help increase that accountability? So we are going to have a conference in this room on November 22nd. Many of you here are already going to be there. We'll have more information about this later. But the most important thing is that the research that we do in the room today will add on to the research that we've been doing, and we will build to the meeting in November. So those of you who are new to us, I met a lot of people today who this is their first Good Leadership Breakfast. That's exciting. I want to explain to you what we're going to do. We're going to do the 7F's wheel here in a second. This tool, I'll tell you more about it. We're going to build on it with another tool that we use in the programming with our clients. Julie mentioned this. We'll talk to her about it here in just a second. I'm going to introduce you to a rock star speaker. And then this thing right here called the handy paint pail. This is what we've been using to raise money for charity. Julie will tell you all about how that works in a second. And all of this is in pursuit of this idea that we believe goodness pays. Goodness is when people thrive together in a culture of encouragement, accountability, and positive teamwork. And what we've learned after 15 years of doing this, that the glue to make goodness work is accountability. And we all have different attitudes about that, but we're working on trying to create one positive, goodness-oriented attitude to accountability. So that's a transition to our first exercise. And Julie, I don't have one up here for you, but maybe I'll have you fill this out, okay?
Okay.
So one of the things that we're learning at the very highest level when you study accountability is that most people think it's not a positive thing. Somewhere around 4 in 5, when you ask them, what are your attitudes about accountability? We'll say it's negative or punitive. That's a lot. So as leaders, if we're going to turn that around, what we're learning is that the opposite of punitive and negative is not necessarily positive. It's actually a growth mindset. If we can get people into a growth mindset, we can have a much different conversation about accountability. This is my favorite tool to do that. So it's called the 7 F's wheel. The 7 F's in alphabetical order are faith, family, finances, fitness, friends, fun, and future. If you've never done this exercise before, I want you really to pay attention to what goes on inside you when you fill out your 7 F's wheel. It's organized in a circle. Every one of the 7 F's has its own spoke. 1 on the spoke means it couldn't be any worse right now for me. And 10 means it couldn't be any better. That's exactly right. We're just asking you to think about your current satisfaction. We're going to start with faith, because if we started with any other word, it would be political. This is alphabetical order. So faith is, how satisfied are you with your spiritual life? Give yourself a score, 1 through 10. What I think is fascinating about this is that the ancient Chinese and the Egyptians figured out 4,000 years ago that the people we like to follow have a connection between mind, body, and spirit. Faith is the spirit word. So after faith is family. Family is all about your satisfaction with your loved ones who share a common sense of home. Next is finances. It's not about how much you have in your pocket or your portfolio. It's about how well does your money fund your priorities. This is where I remind you, you need to do the exercise because we're going to build on it later in the table workshop. Fitness. I'm 61. Fitness means a lot different things to me now than when I invented this tool when I was 37. So how satisfied are you with the health of your body? Friends. This is the satisfaction with the people who share your joys and disappointments. Later tonight, Melinda and I are helping our best friends in the world celebrate their 60th birthday. Big party in somebody's backyard. Then fun. How satisfied are you with the part of your life that's playful and joyful? And then finally, future. How satisfied are you with your sense of hope for yourself and others? And as you complete that one, then just do the kindergarten exercise, please. Connect the dots on your 7 F's wheel. I love how faith is at the beginning, fitness is in the middle, future's at the end. They all kind of blend together. And as you watch yourself draw that shape, ask yourself the question, will my 7 F's wheel roll? That's the most predictable giggle I've ever found in my entire life. The point of this exercise is that good leaders understand that we're constantly growing. What we concentrate on grows, and we believe we can't create an environment of healthy accountability without people who are in a growth mindset. This is the simplest tool ever. It's a free tool. We give this away like water. All you have to do is tell us you want it, and we will send it to you because we've seen nothing like it to actually increase the bond that teams have in helping each other be who they want to be when they grow up. Now I want to introduce you to someone who fills my cup every time I see him. He's one of my dearest personal and professional friends. Darren Lynch is the CEO of Irish Titan, and what's significant about this is that Darren's organization sponsors the 7F's wheel as part of this and everything that we do. So please join me in welcoming Darren Lynch.
Thank you, Paul. I've already asked for Irish walk-up music before. What's the guy got to do? A little diddle-dee, diddle-dee. There's only a million songs that sound the same. So good morning, everyone. I'm Darren Lynch, the founder and CEO of Irish Titan, and I'm excited to be here for many reasons, right? I'm excited to kick off the fall series. I'm excited to see a lot of friendly faces. As a basketball fan and a Timberwolves season ticket holder, I'm excited to hear from Ethan, right? Round of applause for where the Wolves are headed. Also, a preemptive round of applause for the Lynx playoff game this coming Sunday. Let's root for them. I know there will be a subset of the room that cheers for this, maybe a subset that boos, but a round of applause for a preemptive Iowa Hawkeye victory tomorrow against the Gophers. I'm a Hawkeye, so I have to root for my home team.
Yeah, give me the mic back.
Also excited to see Paul wear a more green Irish Titan colored jacket than even I'm wearing.
That's exactly
If I buy
right.
that, that's a write-off. Okay, so Irish Titan is an e-commerce agency. I know many people in the room, and I'll make this part brief because I want to get to why we proudly sponsor. But we help our clients, our merchants, as we refer to them, build and grow e-commerce channels. So if, for example, if you make green AirPods, which I have in my pocket, and you want to sell those, we can build the website for you, help you with the email marketing, help with the paid search, help with the SEO, all those sorts of things. I started the company 20 years ago, and if you have a business selling things, we can help you. So let us know if we can help you towards that front. Why are we proud to sponsor, support, endorse, and rave about Good Leadership Breakfast? First of all, as Paul mentioned, we've become friends, not just with Paul and Melinda, but the entire Good Leadership team over the years. So I believe deeply in what they do. I think what I can speak to really practically is they've helped us become a better organization. They've helped Irish Titan become a better company. And that is in two senses. Practically, as I already mentioned, we're a better company. We talk about 7Fs. We talk about a lot of the themes. My team probably gets tired of me coming to these breakfasts, although many of my team comes to these breakfasts now. But I'll text and take screenshots and send back and say, hey, let's incorporate this into our next management meeting. So I think that's the practical application. However, good leadership also is helping us become aspirationally a better company. And what I mean by that is every year, every couple of years, there's a new wrinkle that Paul and the team add to what they're teaching us. And healthy accountability is the most recent example of that. And I think healthy accountability is gold. My team has heard me talk about that. Now my team is talking about that inside Irish Titan. I think there is absolute treasure in that concept for all of us to make our organizations better. So that's why we're proud to sponsor. Looking forward to today's breakfast and all the rest.
Fantastic. Thank you, Darren. Okay, now we have a poll that's going to help us with our research, so get your phones out. So one of the ways we do this work is we have a research partner called Ambivista. They help us research a broad section of the United States business organizations, and then we do research here to see how we compare. So the first, you can see your first question. Respond to, I believe healthy accountability creates better business results. It's kind of a simple question, isn't it? State your belief there. Strongly agree, strongly disagree, neutral, or disagree. I know Kevin Sensenig, our president over here, who directs all of our research, he's grinning because if you add 70, I know I'm from South Dakota, this is hard for me. If you add 72 and 17, you get, and guess what the survey that we did, we got 89% between strongly agree on the national poll that we did. So what's fascinating about this is when we ask people who know nothing about good leadership, they know nothing about our fascination with goodness. We poll the general public in the middle of a whole bunch of other questions. Do you believe that healthy accountability is better for good business results? They say 89% say yes. That's the kind of things that we're building on here. And so now I just want to pass it back to Julie to help us keep this meeting going. Thanks for all your help, Julie.
Absolutely. Okay, before we go on to our next section, I'd like to introduce a couple sponsors, and with great appreciation because they make this possible. So I'm going to invite to the stage Justin Weinberg with Taft Law Firm.
Thanks. Friday morning, get here from a lawyer. Darren, roll clones. I was at that game. So you led for 59 in 55 seconds, but that's okay. So I'm with Taft. I'm the Minneapolis partner in charge of Taft. We are the fastest growing law firm by percentage of revenue in the AmLaw 100 in the last couple of years. And why we're proud to sponsor this is for that reason, because we do believe in accountability. And it's more than just accountability to our clients, and it's more than just answering emails within 2 hours of time or always being available for a phone call. It's about being there for each other and accountable to one another so that we can best serve and deliver the best legal services to our clients. And it's about being accountable to our communities. We are strongly embedded in our community. We support this community in every community that we're in, and we do think that good accountability is something that we work on every single day, and it's top of mind for my leadership team in Minneapolis, across the law firm, and I think that I can tell you exactly that it has resulted in us in that fast growth and why we've been so successful. So that's all you're going to get to hear from a lawyer on a Friday morning. Thanks.
Great. And I'd also like to invite Scott Morris from Workday.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. So if you don't know who Workday is, we are a software company that focuses on ERP, so think accounting, payroll, and all things HR. And we've been fortunate to have a lot of success in the Fortune 500. What I would tell you is the bulk of our customers have a few thousand employees or less. The fastest growing part of our business is actually organizations with less than 500 people, including companies with under 100 employees. And if you're interested, you can get up and running on Workday in as little as 30 to 45 days. We've came to the Good Leadership Breakfast for over 10 years. And there's two things that I would really drive home that we find value in. One, it really aligns to our company culturally. And two, you hear a lot about this, and it's important to double down on the fact that I think it's true. When we come out of the breakfast, I think everybody feels better, and you're a better steward to those in your community. One of the ways that we found our way here is we were invited by coworkers and family members, and so just sort of something to think about when we walk out and you feel good. I think we should all remember to invite friends, family, people we work with, and that's why we're here. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Well said, and thank you again to our sponsors. You do make this possible, and I love what Scott said. I mean, I know everybody will leave here this morning feeling excited, passionate, motivated, and hope that you can take that back to your teams and families. Okay, this is one of our favorite traditions, as Paul already mentioned. It's called the Bucket of Goodwill, and this is how we raise money for our communities. So I'm going to ask you to practice two of our core values here at Good Leadership this morning: generosity and aspirational thinking. And so I'm going to ask you to pull out your wallet, your checkbook. You can write an IOU. We know how to find you, whatever it takes. But put that in the bucket as you pass it around the table. Put your business card in there. And at the end of the breakfast, we will be collecting the buckets, adding it up. And some lucky winner, Ethan will draw for us, will be able to come up on stage. You know, when you go to your local hardware store, this is called the Handy Paint Pail, and Mark Bergman invented it, and he generously matches the donations that get put in here each time. So again, at the end of the breakfast, we'll draw a name, you'll come up, introduce yourself, and the charity of your choice will receive all of the proceeds. So we'll give you a couple minutes to do that, and then we'll carry on. Okay, thank you so much for your generosity this morning, and look forward at the end hearing how much we've raised. So one of the things that really sets Good Leadership apart is our belief in using data to support the belief that goodness pays. And with that, I'd like to welcome Kevin Sensenik to the stage, President of Good Leadership.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Julie. I appreciate the introduction. Good to see everyone. We'll be back together for our fall series, and really excited about this idea of healthy accountability. As Paul mentioned, the research has really been interesting and thought-provoking and a little bit intriguing at times. And so one of the things that we're looking at when you think about the idea of accountability, a lot of people put it into this very binary thing. Are you accountable or are you not accountable? And what we're finding is that many of the people we're talking to in the interviews and through the data are saying it's a little bit more nuanced than that in our world of a flexible, highly collaborative workplace. And I was just talking to one of my table mates, Rick, and he was saying, you know, the core of accountability is being very clear on where we're going. which I think is very important to think about. And so what I want to share this morning is just some early findings we're seeing. Paul mentioned Ambivista earlier today. They're our great research partner. They do a wonderful job of collecting data for us and helping us to put it all together. I also want to give a shout out to Matt Tappy, who's back here right in the upper portion of the thing. He's waving right there. Matt is our research assistant this year, doing a great job helping us analyze these data quickly and pull out some good findings. But it's interesting as you think about this idea of accountability, think of it beyond just the idea of yes or no. It's what do I expect to see to believe that accountability is healthy in my organization? The top 3 things we're hearing from people already is that I feel accountability is healthy when, first of all, I see it role modeled by my senior leaders. In other words, I know what good is. I can see what good looks like, and I want to pursue that. Secondly is the thing that Rick shared, the idea of being clear in organizational direction. Do I know where I fit and why I matter and how that's going to move us forward? And do I see that for myself and for my team? And the third thing is I want some sense of personal ownership. I want that sense of personal connection. So you see in there, the people are telling us accountability is more than just a yes or no. It's how are we creating an environment at the organization level, the team level, and at the personal level. That we connect these 3 parts together. And so I really liked what Justin shared a moment ago when he said, we believe in accountability not just in what we deliver to our clients and not just what we deliver on returning email at a certain time. We believe in accountability as being part of how we care for one another and how we care for our community. It's deeper than just that, are you accountable or are you not accountable? So with that, let's collect some more data and think about that a little bit further. If you go ahead and pull your phone out again, one of the things we have to think about is how do we establish and set up accountability? Is it a proactive thing? We do it early in the process. Or is it more of a reactive thing? Wait till something goes wrong and say, oh yeah, you were accountable because it failed. So think about that a moment. Go ahead and respond to that question. When establishing accountability in my organization, are we more proactive or more reactive? All right, well, thanks for responding quickly. It's interesting we see the numbers coming up here that we're kind of in the middle. It's somewhere between that reactive and proactive, a little bit more towards the reactive side that we do find in organizations often. We think about the accountability after the fact. What's interesting, when we did our interview work, we interviewed about 200 people for this research, and in that group, there was about 50-50, proactive versus reactive. When we did the national study of over 4,000 people, it actually shifted. It was more 70% proactive, 30% reactive. So interesting that enough in the room, when we're thinking about accountability the way we're talking about it today, we tend to be more in that middle zone. Maybe we're not as proactive as we think we are. So an interesting thing for us to think about. We'll dig into that more with our data as we go forward. So thank you for responding to that. So you see a little bit here, as we said earlier, there's more of that sense of 70-30 split in the data we received ahead of time. With that, let's also think about kind of our next thought around this, our next poll in this. And so this is this idea of, do we use accountability as a growth opportunity or is it a punishment thing? Paul mentioned that being punitive before. So in your organization, when someone's lacking accountability, does your organization view that as an opportunity for growth and development or more as a punishment? Share with us your thoughts around, do you agree or disagree with that statement within your organization, please? All right, again, thank you for the quick responses on that. So we're kind of looking at the numbers, kind of adding it up we're about a 60-40 split. About 60% of us in the room today are saying, yeah, we're pretty good about seeing this as a growth and development opportunity. About 40% are saying, no, it tends to lean a little bit more towards that punishment side. Maybe some opportunity for us to strengthen our sense of healthy accountability. When we look at the data from our outside research, the things we collected prior to coming in today, very similar. It's about 65-35, so a little bit more towards the development side than we're seeing today. But again, I think we're taking some honest assessment in the room today of where are we at and how can we strengthen this idea of healthy accountability within our team. So good to have that self-reflection and understanding as we move into our conversation. But I mentioned earlier that one of the key parts about thinking accountability is understanding this idea of the organization implications, the team implications, and then there's individual personal implications of personal accountability. And today we want to start with this idea of the individual part. So if you pull out from your handout the Good Leadership Benchmark tool, this is going to be a little deeper dive into the 7 Fs because it's going to help us take what we did a few minutes ago on the 7F wheel and actually carry that forward and look at, on this right-hand side of this model, what are some strategies we could implement to actually get stronger at our 7Fs, to get stronger at our sense of personal accountability. Before we complete this and talk about it, though, I'd ask Julie to stay on stage with me today because, Julie, when we said we're going to use this tool, Julie's response was, that's a great tool. I love that tool. I use it with my team. So, Julie, could you share just a little bit with the audience why you like this tool so much, how you use it with your team, and where you see that bringing more personal accountability for your team members?
Yeah. Well, I think when I think about accountability, I think a lot of times you tend to think about the employee-manager relationship, right, and giving feedback that way.
Yeah.
But I think we also need to think about it with our peers, and are we comfortable holding our peers accountable? And to me, the cornerstone of that is trust. And I think, some of us learn lessons in life by making the mistake. And so I look back at a time where I gave somebody some peer feedback, and it really was coming from a genuine place, but we did not have that foundation of trust built enough yet, and it was a major fail. And so I think this is a great way to do that, and as a team. And if you do it as a team and it allows people to talk about their whole person, everything that's going on, maybe show a little bit of vulnerability, that's what starts to build trust within a team, so that when those hard conversations come up, you can actually do it and do it respectfully and have a good outcome from it.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. Really good insights on this idea of the personal and the professional connection around personal accountability. I like that connection there. Thank you. Yeah. So let's take a look at the tool, and we're going to kind of work ourselves through this from the tool itself standpoint, kind of your own reflection, and then we'll give you a moment here to talk with those at your table about this. So again, as I mentioned, on the left-hand side of the tool was a little deeper dive into the 7S, because that first question really sets the tone for how we think about personal accountability, right? To what extent are you living the life you imagine? Go ahead and give yourself a score there, 1 to 10. To what extent are you living the life you imagine? Are we taking personal accountability and ownership for where we're going in our life and in our career? And then you'll see 2 through 8 are actually the scores from the 7F's wheel. So if you pull your wheel back out, you can actually bring those over and just copy them right onto this page. It'll save you some time on that piece. And then on this 9 through 15, as I mentioned, are the strategies we can use to get stronger here and build more personal accountability. Some of these have an inside-out perspective, like number 9, right? I live and work by a personal mission statement that motivates and inspires me. It's a very inside-out perspective of my personal accountability. Versus something like number 13, I have a reliable group of people who support me and help me to be accountable for my goals and aspirations. Very much an outside-in perspective on my personal accountability. We think it's important to balance those two elements to make sure that we are hearing very clearly from others as well as our own perspective. So take a few moments, give about 2 to 3 minutes to complete the exercise, fill in your scores, total it up. During that time, Betty and the team are going to play some nice quiet think and write music. I'll pull you about 2 to 3 minutes. I'll move you forward. Then at your table, talk about this item. How do you see this tool being valuable as you begin to build your personal accountability and personal accountability with your team? So in a few minutes, you'll hear that music uptick, and then we'll go into our conversation. So quiet, think, and write time, and we'll go from there. Please. But we'll go ahead and pull it back together and hear a little bit of what we heard in the audience, and then move into our speaker for today. I want to get to our conversation with Ethan. So while you were working on your benchmark score, and while you were talking at your table about how this model really begins to strengthen your sense of personal accountability, JC was in the audience listening to some of those good discussions and picking up some things. So, JC, what did you hear in the audience as you walked through during the conversation?
Yeah, one of the things I love about the tools that we use at Good Leadership is that they're simple. Simple not meaning easy, but simple meaning that you can execute them relatively quickly. As I was walking around, I heard people talking about that the things that this tool brought to mind were your ability to go, wow, I'm aware of the things that I carry. I'm aware of the things that when I walk into a meeting or a conversation with a direct report, someone above or below, the things that actually matter in a connection that, as Julie said, build trust, that allow me to be seen as a person that help me build a relationship that I can be accountable to with those people that I'm doing the work with. So the thing that I love about this tool that I was hearing from all of you is it makes you aware of the starting place for where accountability starts, and that is that relationship. So really nice conversations, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you, JC. I appreciate that. So again, a good thought as we get moving today in this idea of where I can strengthen my personal accountability to be that role model that establishes that sense of organization, team, and individual accountability within my organization. And I trust you're leaving with some ideas already about how you can make accountability more healthy in your organization starting this afternoon. So with that, let's continue on our conversation today. I'm going to bring Paul back to the stage, and we're going to move into our conversation with Ethan here in just a moment. So welcome Paul back to the stage, please.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I mentioned that basketball is going on this time of year. That includes the Lynx, who are going to win another championship. And the CEO of their organization is with us today. I know Ethan as the CEO of a fantastic organization who also has some experience with the NFL, and he's decorated for many, many sports business leadership. And what I think the awards that mean the most to him is his participation at the national level in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. It's really amazing. And personally, this guy became a father later in life and is really discovering those joys. I mean, I have grandkids older than his kid. Yeah, it's the way it goes, right? And then he's always been a sports fan, a guy who absolutely loves travel and fine dining, which is, it's always fun for us to talk about that. So please join me in welcoming to the stage one of the coolest guys I know, the CEO of the Minnesota Lynx and Timberwolves, Ethan Casson.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, in the spirit of goodness pays, Anthony Edwards had signed a jersey this morning for to see if.
I'm gonna wear it.
I'm
gonna wear it.
Look at this.
I'm gonna wear this thing. This is amazing. See, what the heck did he say? He said, bring your ass.
Bring
right?
your ass.
Yeah, bring your ass. There we go. How about that, huh? Hey. There you go. This is cool as can be. Okay, meeting over, right? Well, thank you so much for the jersey. That's goodness. I appreciate that. When you hear us say building a culture of healthy accountability, what comes to mind for you?
Can I just thank everybody for being here this morning and some of the speakers that came up earlier to talk about something so important to our organization. And I think based on this morning's attendance, something so important to all of your organizations. A lot of people brought their ass this morning.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
A good leadership breakfast.
Yeah,
So I want to say thank you to that, and then pivoting to a critical discussion point for today, this morning. The way I would look at it inside the Timberwolves and Lynx organization, specific to what is healthy accountability look like from a culture standpoint. I would frame it up this way. We start with clear expectations. It's interesting to watch some of the slides leading up to it that I promised I had no visibility into, but we look at clear expectations, and we'll break them down, Paul, if you don't mind, after I list them. Clear expectations, trust and transparency, open lines of communication. We have a philosophy in our organization that we talk about called we over me, and then we have a philosophy in our organization that we describe as disagree and commit. And so going to clear expectations, again, a theme that you're going to hear throughout the morning and already have. It's so interesting when we talk to employees and we try to identify what's important to them. And I think there are the obvious things that are important to them, right? They want to work in an organization that has a purpose. They want to work for an organization that stands for something. They want to work for an organization that provides them the opportunity to grow professionally. They want to work in an organization that, certainly in this day and age, provides flexibility. I think what gets lost in translation is I think at the core of what employees and people inside of an organization ultimately are seeking is clarity. Clarity on their roles, clarity on their responsibilities, clarity in what is our organization's vision, clarity on what kind of strategic plan do we have specific to our organization at a macro level. What's happening in my department or my group? How can I play a role in that? And then how, in fact, do we measure those folks in and around that? So it seems so simple because it isn't the big ones. I want to get paid more. I want to get a promotion. I want to work from home, and I want to have purpose. I want to know what you're asking of me every single day, and what does that trajectory of my career and plan look like inside of it. So that would be the first one for us. The second for us is trust and transparency, and we heard those words used. I want to be able to know as an organization that you trust enough in me to lead, trust enough in me to do the job that you've been asked to do. Transparency is an interesting one, and I think all of us seek transparency, but I think there's a fine line in being transparent, certainly in an organization of our size of 250 plus people. That's a struggle for us to a degree, because I think of the staff meetings that we host on a monthly basis, and I think I'd love to be more transparent in things that unfortunately I don't have the autonomy to be transparent in. We're in an ownership situation right now. I'd love to give that staff a better understanding of where we're at and the direction we're going, and I just can't. So that one's a tricky one, but I would encourage all of you to find what does the trust and transparency approach and philosophy look like. The third one is honest communication. I want to know that I'm available for feedback. And I think what's interesting is those that are good with constructive feedback or giving constructive feedback, can you seek constructive feedback? Are you open-minded enough to go, okay, I'm able to present this person great feedback, but I need in turn to be equally embrace that level of feedback back, so that communication in real time is critical. We over me is something that we started years and years ago. It was during Flip Saunders' tenure with the organization, and it's something that he talked about with our basketball team. And it's interesting when you work in basketball how often we seek to find ways and philosophies and visions and missions and values that are transferable. You know, I look at it like this. If we can talk about it, or if a coach or a front office executive can talk about it in a locker room, I want to be able to transfer that same thinking in a boardroom. And if we're talking about something inside of our organization that's boardroom driven, I want it to be able to be transferred into the locker room. And we over me is exactly that. And I know we all have a version of what that looks like. It's simply we win together, we lose together. It's simply the organization is bigger than you. What we're trying to seek, whether it's on the court or off the court, is bigger than the individual. And when you get a group of 250 people, along with our players, saying, it isn't about me, it's about we, that's a very powerful tool. And then lastly for us is the disagree and commit. And I love this, and it's something, again, that we talk very openly about, and it's a very difficult thing to pull off, right? We're all seeking consensus, whether we're having a conversation around upcoming budgets, where we're making strategy decisions, where we're making CapEx decisions, personnel decisions. Those can be, at times, difficult conversations to have. And I love healthy tension in a room, but it right to a line where the healthy tension is people are speaking their truth, people have a conviction on a point of view. But when we leave this room, when we leave this decision, we're committing to that decision, even if we disagreed with that decision or it wasn't our idea in the first place. And I believe that's the hardest part for folks to make that transition. So healthy, accountability-based level cultures, those are the 5 kind of tenets that we use inside of our organization.
Awesome. Thank you. Very well stated. Love your energy. But let's back up. How did you grow up? So just tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, how did you become the person you are today?
Yeah. I'm an East Coast kid, born and raised in Connecticut, and lived most of my childhood in New Hampshire and a lot of the areas of New England. And first generation in my family to go to college. That was a big deal. It was a big deal for my parents who were not able to go to college, and their parents weren't able to go to college, and their parents beforehand weren't able to go to college. It was making sure that me and my siblings had an opportunity to understand the value and the importance of education, even if we couldn't necessarily afford it. My dad was a janitor. My mom was a school teacher's aide. So when I say humble beginnings, those are very much humble beginnings. However, there wasn't a practice that they didn't go to. There wasn't a game that they didn't sit on the sidelines yelling at the officials. My mom was so embarrassing during those windows of time. I'm still seeking therapy from those moments. My mom actually got kicked out of a basketball game for yelling too much at an official from the sidelines, and then may or may not have thrown something on the court, but that's for another day. But Paul, at that period of time, I was playing basketball. I got the opportunity to play college basketball. I was seeking, what I wanted to be after. And I go back to my childhood, and I go back to my parents who, like I said, were always there, but never dreamed that they could be anything but what life gave them. And at times as a kid, it saddened me, and at other times I was inspired to want to go about it differently. So when I was playing college basketball, a small school out east, I began to think, okay, aspirationally speaking, if I had to pick the most ridiculous career, most ridiculous job. You know, it'd be like saying you know, when you're a kid, you want to be an astronaut. This is my kind of thinking. At that window of time, I remember telling a close group of people around me, I want to be the CEO of an NBA team. And there's a couple chuckles in their audience already, so thank you for that support.
Yeah, when are you, yeah. I was just going to say, when are you going to get there, right?
And here we are. No, and it was very funny to that group, and actually maybe privately it was funny to me. But all I could think of was my parents, and all I could think of was sitting and listening to them talk about what they couldn't be, and all I wanted to fixate on is what I could be. So thinking about being a CEO of a professional sports team was more an aspirational way of telling myself, if I put something so far out, what would I be willing to do to reverse engineer this idea all the way back to that kid in college that thought, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah, we share that. It's not my turn to tell my story, but we share that. I know exactly what you're talking about. You and I met together through Kevin Warren. And you know, I know that Kevin is involved. He was at the Minnesota Vikings, and he went to the Big Ten. Now he's at Chicago Bears. We work with them now. And this idea that these professional sports franchises are franchises,
right?
Like literally franchises, like Arby's, just on a much bigger scale. Most of them operate that way. Open the door, close the door, no one gets hurt, see how the game turns out, and then at the end of the year, do it again. But what you and Kevin have in common is that you're doing transformational things with your organization. So how do you think about that? You have both WNBA and NBA, and you're doing these remarkable things. How do you guys think about what you're trying to do with the business?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I would say the franchise buy-in is a little more expensive than
an Arby's. Yeah, that's right.
And if I can make a plug for Arby's, they're a corporate partner, and they do great things with us. That said, I think it's a great question. When I got into the business, I made a cold call to the Timberwolves to start my career, sold everything I owned, and moved to Minneapolis to begin this journey into this thing that I said I was going to do that no one thought I could possibly do, frankly, including myself. That was an 11-year period of time, Paul. I was fortunate enough to leave and go help run the San Francisco 49ers and build a new football stadium and get out of my comfort zone and see things through a different lens. The NFL, the Bay Area, stadium development, different cultures, different dynamics. And then fortunate enough to come back in 2016 as the Timberwolves CEO. And being a kid who made a cold call to the Minnesota Timberwolves that got himself into a glorified paid internship, entry-level position, to be then asked 17 years later to come back as its CEO was one of the most special and surreal moments of my life. And I only share that piece of my journey because it kind of plays into the question you asked, which is there are so many moments and windows of time that I had exposure into leaders, exposures into organizations, exposures into different leagues and ways and go about it. So the institutional knowledge of what you just described, which is how do you do this or how do you implement it? So much of that was just that window of time, that master's degree level experience that I had for about 17 plus years.
Well, I'm going to stop you for a second because there's a really impressive young woman who starts with your organization on Monday. Did you know this today?
I do know this. I think
so give us a wave over there. So you have the possibility of actually becoming Ethan someday. That's what I just heard. So isn't that funny? That's amazing. Yeah, so let's go back to the transformational things.
Yeah. And I'm glad you bring up Kevin because I think everybody in this room knows who Kevin Warren is, or if you don't know who Kevin Warren is, you certainly know what he stands for and what he's capable of doing. But he also looks at it through the lens of it isn't just a franchise. And I would say, as Jen Ridgway is here, who's our Chief Impact Officer and Executive Director of our foundation, and David King's here, who's our Senior Vice President of Corporate Partnerships, we don't look at our organization as a franchise or a business or a basketball team. We look at it as a community asset. And I think that's something that Kevin does an incredible job of. And I think, I have to be honest, I think every team in this marketplace every professional sports team in this marketplace, they do an incredible job of, yes, we are what you see on the court or on the field or on the ice, in the arena, in the stadium, but we're community assets. Our responsibility is to serve the community. Our responsibility is so much bigger than just what that business looks like or how that season and outcome ended up resulting in. Our mission in our organization is to elevate lives through the power of basketball. And the reason we chose and landed on that mission is because when you think about elevating lives, you don't think about the score or the series of the Mavericks, for instance. You think of things that involve inward facing, how are we elevating lives through the power of basketball? That would be our employees. And most importantly, as a community asset, how are we elevating lives in the communities in which we work, live, and play? And we hold ourselves to that mantra. So you get out of the franchise business, tactical component of it, and you start to look at it and go, okay, we have a platform, we have a responsibility, we're a community asset, and we're charged with making sure that we show up in our communities every single day.
Well, the work that we do in major sports is to build bridges between the business operations and the sports operations, because we believe that you can't do those transformational things unless you build that bridge. You've been at this and you've had many fits and starts over the years, and it's clearly better now than ever before.
Yeah.
You learn through trial and error. So what's working right now? Why is the bridge between business and basketball operations, both men's and women's, so strong?
Yeah. I think the question to lead to your actual question is, what's working right now? I believe the answer in what wasn't working, right? And that led us to maybe a place, in fact, frankly, positively, a place that we've never been before. And I know the on-court success of the Timberwolves this past year, which was remarkable, and we're going to continue to bring that level of success. I know it for years to come, but we've waited a long time. And now you've got the Lynx as a number 2 seed that in a lot of ways are arguably projected to potentially win another championship. They're 5th, which is remarkable. Our industry, and I'm just kind of generalizing here because I know every industry is slightly different. There are subcultures that exist in all of our companies. If you're a Fortune 1, a Fortune 5, and you've got hundreds of thousands of employees, that subculture might be because you've got campuses all over the country. If you're an organization whose departments don't all work collectively together, there's certainly subcultures that pop up and develop that might be a little bit different, Paul, than maybe what organizationally your culture wants to represent. In sports, it's so unique because I would say 90%, maybe more, of all professional sports teams have what I would describe as a bifurcated culture system. We are an organization that primarily has the CEO report to ownership and the operations, football, basketball, hockey, baseball, soccer, you name it, report into ownership. So imagine an organization where you go into work and you've got half of the company whose leader is reporting into ownership and the other half of the organization's leader is reporting into ownership. That can be problematic because there's no possible way to guarantee alignment. The other piece that makes it very unique is the transient way in which, let's be honest, the coaches and front office and players' lives and what they do and how they go about it in their careers exists. They find success, they can stay, or they find success, they can leave for something more, more opportunistic. I think there's moments where performance matters and we have to make tough decisions, and those tough decisions involve the people that I'm talking about, whether it's on the court or the front office. So you are in a constant state of people coming in and leaving, coming in and leaving, and when they come in, a lot of times they're bringing folks that they trust with them. So now you're trying to build a culture that was already bifurcated in the way in which we report into ownership. This is a generalization, but most teams are set up this way. And now you have this way in which people are coming and going and people are coming and going. So how do you actually build mission, vision, values and live those mission, value, values? How do you actually go to work and know that words like alignment, that are the buzzwords that make us feel really good about how we're going about our jobs? How do you actually make that work? And I would just say with Tim Conley, with Cheryl, with Coach Finch and their teams, we are in the best place that we've ever been. And some of it is because we just spent so much time and we're so intentional with those hires. And let me say it a different way. We were intentional with those hires, but they deserved the opportunity to lead the way they're leading because they're the best at what they do. The unique part is when, and Cheryl's been with us for 15 years, Tim a couple years now, and Finchy a few more years than that, they wanted to sit down and collectively build the culture as one.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, this is how we did it in Toronto, this is how we did it in this organization, this is how I'm going to coach. It was more, okay, help us understand the Timberwolves and Lynx way.
Yeah.
What do you guys stand for? Where are their shortcomings? What are the fans seeking? What is the community seeking? And they helped us architect it. So when you build something collectively together and end up having the success that we've been having with both teams on the court, and you have that alignment and trust and transparency that we talked about around healthy accountability, that line of communication, we're constantly sharing with one another how we continue to grow together, the we over me, and the disagree and commit. And they love that because they have a version of that they already were bought into, and we love that because that's how we go about our day. That's why you see the success.
Yeah, and my observation is that the ones who don't get there expect the basketball, in this case, to learn from the business side, and actually the most effective is to do it the other way.
Yeah.
So I think it was obvious to those of us who are fans, but this is a fact. I mean, I travel a lot. I go someplace on an airplane about 35 weeks a year, and that means you get in back of a lot of cars, and most of the time the driver will say, "Oh, welcome to town. Where are you from?" And so for at least a decade, I'd say, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they would start talking about how miserable our sports teams were. It was getting old. And then I would say, yeah, but what about the Lynx? And they go, what? Yeah, but then now we've got this momentum building with all the teams in town. And what's been most satisfying to watch is how the organization that you run has really transformed itself. And it's amazing to me in looking from the outside in that you really do see and feel that alignment.
Yeah. Quick story of us. That was Paul's pitch to me around working with him as an executive coach, is that nobody knows who you are and no one knows what you're doing, and if they do, they think it's bad. And I was like, when can I sign up?
How did that turn out?
Yeah, it did. A leap of faith, driven by an Uber driver.
Yeah, that's right.
Ask that question again.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what did you have to do to get the business side of the organization to actually take out borrow from the alignment that was happening in the basketball organization, because that's the right way to do it. Most people don't do it that way.
Yeah. It's really simple, because along with what we just talked about, leadership, those people in those positions that continue to challenge us, and our executive team that continue to challenge them, but that trust that we all have with one another, we're seeking best practices. Like all of us in this room, we're seeking best practices. We're seeking best practices from our competitors. We're seeking best practices from our industry. We're seeking best practices from maybe different people, different leaders, different departments inside of our organization. We have a thirst for best practices. And so when something, our training facility is a beautiful training facility. Some of you, I'm sure, have been through it. And we're set up, right? The courts and everything that you would think an NBA and WN player would need is kind of in the middle. And then the front office and coaching staff's kind of on one side, and then the business side. We kind of make this kind of circular kind of environment of architecture, if you will. And when you see something happening and working in basketball, you want to know how you can apply it to business. And when they see something happening in business, when we talk about culture, when we talk about things like performance reviews, and development plans, and communication strategies, we're constantly sharing these best practices and using them as if they're our own. And frankly, because we are a one culture-like organization now, they are all of ours. Again, I'll say this again. Can the boardroom reflect the locker room, and can the locker room reflect the boardroom? And if the answer is most of the time yes, that's a pretty good space to be in our worlds.
Well, those of you who are familiar with our program here know that we do some research on our speakers and we give them a gift back, and that is that we ask the people that work with them on a regular basis, what are Ethan's success habits? And a success habit is something that observers have learned to notice because they see their leader do this over and over and over again because it works for them. So we mined for some success habits for you, and we came up with some pretty cool stuff. And I really want you to tell us, why is an infinite mindset of gratitude and opportunity and everything, why is that important to you, and then how do you do it?
Yeah. An infinite mindset. So back in San Francisco, I had the opportunity and pleasure to hire Simon Sinek. And show of hands, the number of folks that have read, watched this incredible speaker, leader, author, consultant, second best leader, consultant, author, writer. One of the things, Paul, that he was just in the beginning stages, we had him work with our leadership team and then ultimately our staff, and he hadn't written the Infinite Game yet, but he was working on it. So it was like a rough draft version of this book that he wrote years and years ago. A lot of people, I'm sure, have read it, called The Infinite Game, which is really about the infinite mindset. And I just remember thinking, Paul, just the application of it. I kept thinking about, wow, that's such an interesting way to think of a business. It's almost the opposite of the way in which we think of our business. We all think of our businesses. We've got quarterly earnings that we've got to achieve. In our cases, we're trying to get to a number of wins and losses. We have a P&L that we're managing. There's a starting point and an ending point with everything that we do. And some of that, in many ways, we can't control. We can't stop doing what we've been asked to do. However, that book and that mindset, it's not his mindset, but he's written extensively about that mindset, is, well, what if we looked at this completely different? What if this was about big picture? What if this was about the long game? What if this didn't have anything to do with the starting point and an ending point? We just continue to evolve. And would that change the way we approach our decision making? Would that change the way in our approach and the ways in which we build our culture? So that was one area that really gravitated toward me, which is like, no, it doesn't have to stop. Right? We have to measure ourselves, and it doesn't have to stop. Another area with regards to this.
Let me show you the second one. I want to. This all builds together. So, if we can see on the screen the slide, the second success habit people observed in you is this pack mentality. We play hard, smart together, and they're motivated by that infinite mindset. Can you talk about that a little bit?
We play. In fact, it's now our values to play hard, play smart, play together, and we've added have fun. Because I don't want our staffs and I don't want people associated with our organization to not recognize that this is sports, and it's the very reason why we get such joy or frustration. But there's an emotional attachment to what sports does. And let's be honest, with everything happening in the world, whether it's political based or other, sports is the one common denominator. Sports brings people together. So our value systems and that infinite kind of thinking is that we're going to live these forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And there's something about those values too, which is also another infinite mindset type of thinking, which is purpose-driven.
Yeah, and obviously the word play is powerful. There's nothing negative or punitive about that. Play is a permission-giving word, which we love. We think that that's where the highest performance comes from. So then the last success habit here is something that I see in you and I see in all my experiences when I'm engaging with the organization. Talk about how you think about world class all the time.
Yeah, our vision is to be one of the most admired teams in professional sports. We want to compete for championships. We want to build an avid fan base. We want to make an impact in the communities in which we work, live, and play. World class to me is a mindset. It's a belief that what we do and how we do it can be world class. How you measure world class, right, doesn't matter. How you come to your job every single day with purpose and passion is world class. And I think as someone or an organization that I once began my career in, and seeing how difficult and painful that window of time was, 20 plus years or so, there was a lot of apprehension when I started about could we be anything but what everyone else has written about us? Has our fate been determined? Or take it a different way, is our fate now determined because we're now successful? And I think both responses and attitudes are unhealthy.
They're finite.
They're finite, exactly. And to suggest that others are telling us we're world-class because we're winning, or others outside of our organization are telling us we're not world-class because we're losing, is the opposite of exactly why I take on this infinite kind of state of mind. I want people to believe that this is the best place to work. I want them to believe that how we think of our business and our people and our partners and our community partners and our nonprofits and the stakeholders, the people in this room, I want you to believe and have a sense of pride that this is an organization that is seeking world-class.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever get to world-class. It's such a subjective way to go about it. But what if we woke up every day with that purpose and passion and said, no, we're exactly a world-class based organization?
I'm going to make a transition to our last question with just a quick little story that's fairly recent and just, I think, hilarious. We got invited to go to a major sporting event that the Timberwolves were part of, who invited us. My wife, Melinda, and my daughter, Anna, who's now 28, lives in Chicago, came with us. And we were in this suite watching this sporting event, and it was full of all sorts of fantastically famous people. And she was standing in the corner having a conversation with this guy about her age. So she comes over to me, and I said, hey, Anna, did you enjoy that conversation? She said, yeah. And she said, it's so fascinating. He plays basketball. And I was like, okay, really? And so she's going on, and then she turns to the person next to me. She said, well, who was that? And she said, and the guy goes, that's Karl Anthony Towns. And she goes, he was so nice. So there you go. The glow is being reflected through the people who are on. At that time, he had just gotten the big contract and everything, and everybody in the world knew who he was except for Anna Botts.
Yep. He's so tall, he's so nice.
He's so nice, and he plays basketball.
He's pretty good.
So the last question, as we move towards sending all these people back into their lives, is how do you know for sure that goodness pays for you and your leadership?
25 years doing this. I think when you lead with, here's what I'd say. When you lead with goodness, I think there's an endless return of things. I think you have to understand what those returns ultimately look like. I'd like to think I'm somebody that sought goodness from the very beginning, Paul. And it's taken on different iterations, and certainly as my role has changed throughout the years, my responsibility in delivering that goodness has changed. But when you lead with goodness, all of us in this room, we have an opportunity to impact and have a deeper relationship with the people that we get to work with every single day. We have an opportunity to have a deeper impact and a more authentic relationship with everybody we come in contact with inside of our organization and outside of our organization, right? So that's leading with goodness. When I think of leading with goodness, I think of how blessed we are if we adopt that thinking, that goodness thinking, of being able to build a culture, a working environment that people gravitate toward. Because people are seeking this. They might not say it the way we're talking about it. You know, as we're interviewing people and talking to people, they might not talk about it in a goodness way. But what they're seeking is to want to be a part of an organization that believes in something like this. And I love the idea of recruiting people under the lens of we're an organization leading with goodness. And I love the idea of retaining and developing people with that same mantra. I believe wholeheartedly that goodness and leadership in and around goodness paying results in better business. I just frankly believe it. I've seen it with my own eyes. Does it mean tomorrow? I don't think it does. I don't think you can manufacture it. I don't think it could be something that you put on a strategic plan and it's gone the following year. But I believe over a long period of time, you will achieve significant amount of successes in each of your businesses because you're leading with goodness. And I think leading with goodness, there's something that takes the day-to-day out and makes it something so much bigger. And working in professional sports with the platform, when I talked about how important our community is as a community asset, I think goodness resonates in the idea that we are in fact giving back, doing more, and understand that we have a responsibility in that outcome.
I'm so grateful to spend time with you. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, here comes Julie. Yeah, speaking of giving back, that's a perfect clue. You go ahead.
All right. Well, good leadership. We'll give $1,000 to a charity of your choice as a thank you for being here today. Do you want to tell us where that's going and why?
Yeah, so, well, thank you,
Yes.
and thank you for that gesture. We're going to allocate those dollars to our Fast Break Foundation, and again, I mentioned Jen Ridgway is with us here today, and our Fast Break Foundation is so important to the things that we talked about this morning. You know, these dollars, frankly, come into our foundation and then are distributed throughout our communities, and we've got starting 5 grantees like Youth Link and TC Pride and Special Olympics, and A Mother's Love, and Big Brothers Big Sisters, and Boys and Girls Clubs. I mean, you name the organization, the United Way. You name the organization that we can get involved in, and those resources are going into those types of programs to do good. A lot of times we're integrating our players as part of it. The NBA Foundation is part of those resources as well. So much appreciated, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we raised $2,088 today, so with the generous match, have $4,176 to give. Will you draw somebody's name out of this, please?
Let me just find the Timberwolves one here.
Yeah.
Am I reading this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Brittany Cole.
Brittany.
Hey, Brittany, come on up. Brittany, welcome. We have a mic here for you. Can you introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Brittany Cole. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Blanchard and working in a partnership with Good Leadership, so happy to be here. And I have the amazing privilege to be sitting with Christine Fortman, so this is going to go to the Minneapolis Heart Institute Foundation.
Wow. Christine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, Christine's a past speaker here at the breakfast. We're so grateful to see you again here today. Goodness pays, right? Yeah,
All right,
fantastic.
thank you.
Your turn. You ready?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the Timberwolves organization. Training camp's just a couple weeks away. But more importantly, based on where we stand inside the WNBA, we finished our regular season last night as the number 2 seed, which has been a remarkable achievement for Cheryl and our players. And as a thank you to all of you for joining us this morning and participating and engaging, and really wanting to be part of this journey with Paul and his team and all of us, we're going to offer everybody in the room 2 tickets to Game 2 on Wednesday night at Target Center for the Lynx playoff game.
Get out of here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Amazing.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Paul.
Amazing.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. So I'm sure someone in this room knows how that's going to work. So I don't know how, but I guarantee you he promised it, so we'll figure out how to make it work. Thank you so much, Ethan. What an amazing day. Yeah, absolutely. You can. Good. So well, we'll be back in this room on October 25. I am really excited to introduce you to Craig Warren. I met Craig because one of the people who's in the room here today came up to me about 2 years ago and said, "You have got to meet Craig Warren. He's going to be a fast friend of yours, and I think someday he's going to be a speaker." And she was absolutely right. Thank you. Craig is a remarkable human being who learned how to lead in the United States military and then has been in many different corporate roles. And now he is in charge of one of the real gems of our community, the Washburn Center for Children. And he's got a sobering story about the state of what it's like to be a kid today, and also an incredibly inspiring story about what we're all doing together to make it happen. So you know what? Please come back a month from now, October 25. Craig is also on the steering team for the Healthy Accountability Research. And so I want to remind you, why are we putting all this energy into this topic? The answer is this. We defined about 10 years ago with a research project that goodness is when people thrive together in a culture of encouragement, accountability, and positive teamwork. And now as we've been coaching this concept in all sorts of different organizations, we are realizing without a doubt that accountability is the glue. Without healthy accountability, the goodness equation doesn't pay. And in this room, that's like oxygen. Everybody understands it and believes it. But not everyone believes it and understands it outside of this room, which is why we have an endless supply of things we can do to help. So the conference is on November 22nd. If you don't know about this, we can give you some information. We are selling tables and half tables because we want people to be there with a work-together mindset to go back and actually change your organizations. We're doing it because we know this. You can't have an effective organization without good leadership. We believe you can't have good leadership without goodness. And we also know now that healthy accountability is the glue that makes that equation work. So with that, I just want to ask you the question that we've become famous for asking. And one time, about 3 years ago, I forgot to ask this question. I'll never ask that again. So are you ready to leave this room and radiate goodness today? Okay, I'm going to ask it again. Are you ready to radiate goodness today? Thank you very much. Enjoy the Lynx game.